There comes a moment in every life when the mirror stares back with quiet intensity, asking a question no one else can answer. Is this all there is for you? That's not just a moment of reflection, that's a turning point. A crossroad, and at that crossroad, the direction you choose won't be determined by your talents, your education, or even your circumstances. It will be defined by one thing, your decision. Now listen, most people don't make real decisions. They make preferences. They say, I'd like to be successful. I wish I could be in shape. It would be nice to start that business. But a preference is not a decision. A wish doesn't hold weight. A real decision is a mental cut, off-point a line in the sand. It's when you say no more, or from now on, and you mean it so deeply that every part of your behavior begins to shift. A real decision burns bridges behind you. A real decision makes retreat impossible. And that's where transformation begins. Think about the word decision itself. The root of its side means to cut off, the same root as homicide or suicide. When you make a decision, you are cutting off any other possibility. You are no longer negotiating with your old self. You are no longer entertaining the exit door. You're locked in, not interested in whether it's convenient or whether you feel like it today. You're committed. That kind of decision doesn't come from the head, it comes from the gut, from that part of you that's tired of repeating the same cycle, from that voice inside that says, I can't do this anymore. And when you listen to that voice, something powerful happens. Your mind stops seeking excuses and starts seeking strategies. Your body stops dragging and starts moving. Your soul stops whispering and starts roaring. Why? Because you've taken the most important first step toward greatness. You've decided. People talk about motivation like it's the spark, but the truth is, motivation comes after the decision. You don't wait to feel motivated. You decide, and then your mind follows. You act your way into motivation, not the other way around. The moment you decide that you're done with average, done with excuses, done with just getting by, that's the moment you unlock the real version of you. And that version, it's been waiting on the sidelines, pacing, ready. Not when things get easier, not when the timing is perfect, but when the decision is made. You don't need more time. You don't need more money. You don't need anyone to give you permission. What you need is a decision so strong, so rooted in purpose, that every distraction becomes irrelevant. A decision that rewrites your story. A decision that silences the noise of the world and brings you face with what matters. That's when your habits change. That's when you start waking up earlier, pushing harder, standing taller, not because someone told you to, but because you decided to. The truth is, most people are stuck because they're undecided. They've got one foot in the dream and one foot in the doubt. One foot in the future and one foot in their past. They're riding the fence of potential, never quite committing to either side. And let me tell you something, nothing grows in the middle. You can't half. Plant a seed and expect it to bloom. You've got to go all in, and that begins with one bold, fearless, unshakable decision. A decision to stop tolerating the things that have been draining you. A decision to stop shrinking to make others comfortable. A decision to stop postponing the life that's calling your name. It's not out there, it's within you, and it's waiting, not for the perfect moment, but for your firm decision to finally arrive. Decisions shape direction, and direction creates destiny. You want change, it starts the moment you stop saying someday and start saying now. You don't need 10 more books, 5 more steps, or another opinion. What you need is to decide that the version of you that's been surviving is no longer in charge. That version got you here, but it won't take you there. The decision for more, for better, for greater is yours. It's always been. Pain is not always punishment. Struggle is not always failure. Too many people see hardship as a red light, a reason to retreat, a sign that maybe it just wasn't meant to be. But the truth is this: struggle is not a stop sign, it's a signal that you are alive, engaged, moving, breaking free of what's been and reaching for something more. We've been conditioned to avoid discomfort. We've been taught to believe that struggle means something is wrong. But the ones who make it, the ones who rise and transform their lives, they don't see struggle as a reason to give up. They see it as confirmation they're in the right place. Because nothing great ever comes easy. Nothing meaningful is born without pressure. Growth does not happen in convenience. It happens in resistance. Think of how muscle is built. You don't grow by lifting what's light. You grow by lifting what challenges you, what pushes you to your edge, the burn, the fatigue, the moment you want to quit. That's the exact moment your body begins to change. The same principle applies to life. That moment when you're exhausted, overwhelmed, doubting yourself, that's when something inside you has the chance to break through. But only if you don't quit. Struggle is the furnace that forges character. It strips away what's not essential. It reveals what you really believe. It shows you where your limits are, and then it invites you to go beyond them. See, most people want strength, but they don't want to go through what it takes to develop it. They want confidence, but they avoid the very situations that would teach them how to stand tall. You don't become strong by reading about it. You become strong by walking through fire and realizing it didn't consume you. There is no breakthrough without breakdown. The caterpillar must struggle in the cocoon before it ever becomes a butterfly. That fight to get free is what strengthens its wings so it can fly. If someone cuts the cocoon open to help it, the butterfly emerges too weak to live. It's the struggle that makes it strong. The same is true for you. The fight you're in now is developing something deeper than comfort ever could. And you know what's dangerous, not struggling, coasting. Being comfortable in situations that don't challenge you, numbing out, avoiding difficulty. That's how people drift through life, never tapping into their potential, never discovering who they truly are. Comfort zones are where dreams go to die. If everything feels easy, you're not growing, you're maintaining, and life wasn't meant to be maintained. It was meant to be expanded. When struggle shows up, you've got a choice. You can interpret it as life being unfair, or you can interpret it as life calling you higher. You can complain, or you can commit. You can surrender to the pressure, or you can use it as fuel to push forward. Struggle reveals your depth. It shows you what you're really made of. And once you've gone through enough of it, you start to see it differently. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this trying to teach me? Most people want the prize, but fear the process. But the process is the point. That's where you become someone new. That's where your mindset shifts, your discipline sharpens, and your inner voice gets louder than the noise around you. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you. You stop expecting things to be fair. You realize you're responsible for your own climb, and that the struggle is actually your greatest teacher. Your success will not be measured by how much you avoided difficulty, but by how you moved through it. How you responded when the weight got heavy, how you stayed focused when the path got dark, how you kept going when no one clapped, no one watched, and no one cared except you. That kind of struggle. It builds legacy. It builds something inside you that success alone never could. Struggle is the birthplace of transformation. It's uncomfortable. It's exhausting. It will break you open, but in that breaking, something new emerges. Something powerful, something real. The struggle isn't here to stop you. It's here to sculpt you into who you were always meant to become. There's a quiet war happening in the minds of many today, a war between purpose and approval, between truth and applause. It's the tug of war between doing what feels right deep in your soul and doing what gets the most attention from the outside world. And in this age where likes, shares, and followers have become the new currency, It's never been easier to get lost in the noise of popularity and forget the sound of your own voice. But make no mistake, chasing your purpose is far more powerful, far more sustaining, and far more transformational than chasing popularity ever will be, because popularity fades, trends pass, crowds shift. What's loved today is forgotten tomorrow, but purpose endures. Purpose is rooted in something deeper than public opinion. It's anchored in conviction, in calling, in that inner pull that refuses to be silenced. People spend so much time trying to be seen that they forget to be solid. They're performing for approval instead of building something that matters. They trade authenticity for acceptance, but popularity without purpose is hollow. It's noise without impact. You can have the whole world cheering for you and still feel lost if you're not walking in alignment with who you really are. Purpose isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes purpose means doing the hard things no one claps for. It means staying committed when no one's watching. It means saying no to distractions, even when they're wrapped in praise. Because purpose is personal. It's not about how many eyes are on you, it's about whether you can look in the mirror and say, "I'm doing what I was born to do." When you chase popularity, you become a prisoner to opinion. You start shaping your choices based on what others might think. You start shrinking yourself to fit into boxes that were never built for your truth. And the most dangerous part, you can become successful at being someone you're not. But what's the point of gaining recognition for a version of yourself that's only a costume? The ones who make real impact, the ones who live fulfilled, not just followed, they don't follow the crowd. They follow their calling. They understand that the crowd is inconsistent. One moment they'll cheer, the next they'll criticize. If your identity is tied to that wave, you'll rise and fall with every opinion. But when you're rooted in purpose, you don't flinch. You don't fold. You stay focused. And purpose has a cost. It requires you to walk paths others won't understand. It asks you to be honest when silence would be easier. It demands consistency when shortcuts tempt you. But what it gives in return is something popularity never can piece. Not comfort, not ease, but peace. That unshakable clarity that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're meant to be, doing what you were created to do. People will question you when you stop chasing what they're chasing. They'll wonder why you're not playing the game, why you're not trying to impress, why you're not bending just to be liked. But purpose doesn't bend, it doesn't bargain, it builds, it carves out legacy while popularity is still chasing relevance. And legacy, unlike popularity, doesn't need permission to last. It's not built on trends, it's built on truth. You don't need everyone to understand your journey. You don't need a spotlight to validate your steps. What you need is to stay loyal to your assignment, the one life whispered to you when no one else was listening. That thing that lights your fire, that idea that won't let go of you, that passion that feels too big to ignore. That's your compass, that's your signal, that's your power. Chasing popularity is exhausting. It'll wear you out trying to keep up, trying to please, trying to be all things to all people. But purpose fuels you. It gives you stamina. It sharpens your focus. It strips away what's unnecessary and leaves only what's real. You stop asking, how do I get them to notice me? And you start asking, how do I serve with what I've been given? There's nothing wrong with recognition. But when recognition becomes the goal instead of the result, you lose yourself. Popularity might put you in front of people, but only purpose will keep you there with integrity. Only purpose can carry the weight of real influence. Only purpose can keep you grounded when the noise gets loud and the pressure rises, because purpose doesn't come from the outside, it comes from within. Your mind is your command center. Everything you do, everything you create, Everything you believe starts with one thing, a thought. Every dream that's ever been achieved, every invention, every empire, every breakthrough was once just a thought in someone's mind. And every failure that never had to be, every talent wasted, every life lived beneath its potential that also started with a thought. This is why you cannot afford to be careless with your mind. You have to guard your thoughts like your life depends on it, because it truly does. You become what you consistently think about. If your mind is flooded with doubt, negativity, fear, and shame, don't be surprised when your actions reflect those very things. That internal dialogue, that voice that narrates your days, it's either building you or breaking you. And the dangerous part is, most people aren't even aware of it. They've let their thoughts run wild, unfiltered, and undisciplined, and now they're living in a reality shaped by beliefs they never consciously chose. Your thoughts are seeds, and your mind is soil. Every day you're planting something, and make no mistake, whatever you plant will grow. Plant fear, you'll reap hesitation. Plant doubt, you'll harvest inaction. But if you plant belief, you'll grow boldness. If you plant hope, you'll reap resilience. The mind will produce whatever you nurture inside it. So the question is not whether your thoughts are powerful, they are. The real question is, are they working for you or against you? What you allow into your mind shapes what comes out of your life. Every conversation you entertain, every headline you absorb, every voice you let speak into your heart, it's either feeding your faith or fueling your fear. You've got to be intentional. You've got to filter what gets access. Not every voice deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves your energy. Some people aren't qualified to speak into your life, and yet their words have taken root inside your thoughts. And now you're living small because someone else couldn't see your potential. Mental discipline isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about refusing to give power to thoughts that don't serve your purpose. You have to recognize when your mind is lying to you. When it says you're not good enough, when it tells you that you'll fail, that it's too late, that you'll never recover, that's not truth. That's programming. Old programming, based on fear, shame, and scarcity. And it's your job to rewrite it. Because no one can think for you. No one can manage your mind but you. The most dangerous battles don't happen in boardrooms or on battlefields. They happen between your ears. That's where wars are won or lost. That's where destinies are shaped or squandered. And if you don't take control of that space, it will be taken over by fear, by doubt, by the noise of the world. You must train your mind like a warrior trains for combat, daily, relentlessly, with intention. You don't wait until you're under attack to start defending your peace. You build that wall of mental strength ahead of time. You feed your mind truth before the lies show up. You remind yourself of who you are before the world tries to convince you otherwise. It's a daily decision to think higher, to think better, to think like the person you're becoming. If you're not where you want to be, don't just change your behavior, check your thoughts. Behavior follows belief, and belief begins with thought. Change what you think is possible. Change what you think you deserve. Speak to yourself with the same encouragement you'd give to someone you love. You don't have to believe every thought you think. You get to choose, and that choice is power. The environment you live in externally will always reflect the one you've cultivated internally. You can't build a life of peace with a mind full of chaos. You can't create abundance while feeding thoughts of lack. And you can't step into your purpose if your mind is filled with limits that were never yours to begin with. The mind is a battlefield, and the most important work you'll ever do will happen in the invisible space between what the world tells you and what you choose to believe. Every person wants to be remembered for something. Deep inside, there's a desire to leave a mark, to matter, to know that your life stood for something greater than just survival. That's legacy, the impact you leave long after your time is done. But legacy doesn't begin at the end of your life. It begins the moment you stop making excuses and start taking full ownership of what you've been called to do. Excuses are the chains that keep people tied to mediocrity. They're dressed up as reasons, but they're really permission slips to stay stuck. I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the support. I didn't know how. I was waiting for the right time. Excuses don't sound like fear, but that's exactly what they are. Fear in disguise. And as long as you keep feeding them, you'll delay the greatness that's already inside you. You cannot build legacy and hold onto excuses at the same time. One has to go. Legacy requires sacrifice. It demands discomfort. It calls for personal responsibility at the highest level, and that responsibility begins with the decision to say, no more hiding behind reasons, no more blaming what I didn't get, no more stalling my future because of what happened in my past. Your power begins where your excuses stop. Some people wait for everything to be perfect before they move, but perfection is the biggest excuse of them all. It's just another way to avoid the risk of failure. You will not leave a legacy by playing it safe. Playing it safe never made history. Playing it safe never wrote a book, built a company, started a movement, or healed a generation. At some point, you have to be bold enough to say, I may not have it all figured out, but I'm going anyway. The difference between those who make an impact and those who don't is not talent. It's not luck. It's not even timing. It's the choice to show up anyway without the excuse, without the perfect conditions, without the applause. Legacy builders understand that conditions will never be ideal. They create in chaos. They persist in pressure. They produce while bleeding, because what's in them won't let them sit still. The calling is louder than the comfort. You were born with something unique, a voice, a perspective, a fire that no one else can replicate. But that gift will never find its place in the world if you keep covering it with excuses. Every time you delay, you're not just pushing back your dreams, you're postponing your impact. You don't know who needs what you carry. You don't know who's watching you, waiting for permission to rise because they see you do it first. And when you hold back, you're not just stealing from yourself. You're stealing from the people connected to your purpose. There is always going to be a reason not to. Life will always offer you an excuse. But excuses don't inspire. Excuses don't create change. Excuses don't shift generations. You think your story is too messy. Someone needs to hear it. You think you're not qualified. Purpose doesn't check resumes, it checks hearts. You think it's too late. Legacy isn't about when you start. It's about what you build once you do. You cannot outrun the life that's calling you. You can try to silence it with distraction, with doubt, with denial, but the longer you wait, the louder the unrest grows. That's because there's a version of you that knows what you're capable of. A version that sees beyond the excuse, a version that's already living on the other side of fear. And the only thing standing between where you are and where you could be is the story you keep telling yourself about why you're not ready. Legacy begins the moment you stop rehearsing limitations and start living with intention. It begins the day you choose courage over convenience. When you stop making the conversation about what you don't have and start making it about what you can do with what you do have. You don't need a perfect past to leave a powerful legacy. You need vision. You need grit. You need the willingness to trade comfort for contribution. Because legacy isn't a moment, it's a mindset. It's the daily discipline of rising above the excuse and stepping into the assignment. You were never meant to drift. You were meant to drive your life with clarity, with purpose, and with unshakable conviction. And if anything's been made clear, it's this. The distance between where you are and where you were born to be isn't measured in miles, it's measured in decisions, in mindset, in the willingness to go beyond excuses and step fully into who you are. The journey begins when you stop waiting and finally decide. That moment when you stop negotiating with fear, when you stop giving power to doubt, that's the moment your future takes shape. It won't come easy. It's not supposed to. Struggle is part of the process, but struggle doesn't stop you. It shapes you. It strengthens what comfort never could. And while the world is busy chasing attention, you focus on alignment. You lock into your calling, because when you walk in purpose, you don't need applause to know you're making impact. You'll move in silence, but the results will speak loudly. Guard your mind. Guard it like a treasure. Because every breakthrough starts in the mind long before it shows up in your life. Speak life into yourself. Speak faith into your future. The words you repeat are the bricks you lay, so build wisely. And remember, the legacy you leave isn't built someday. It starts now, in this moment, in this mindset. When the excuses are buried, the real work begins. You're not waiting for permission. You are the permission. You're not waiting for change. You are the change. The world doesn't need a copy. It needs your fire, your story, your truth. So rise up, not just for recognition, but for responsibility. Because when you move with purpose, when you think with power, when you lead with heart, you don't just change your life.